Having established that children in Africa experience many forms of abuse, I now turn our attention to the more than 28,000 vulnerable children across the continent that are subject to detention and inhumane treatment, which is especially damaging to their physical and mental health. To that effect, the African Child Policy Forum and Defense for Children International stepped up their efforts during the Continental Conference on Access to Justice for Children in Africa in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, 8th to 10th May 2018, to deepen our understanding of this challenge.
Unfortunately, the human dignity of children is not really a subject that appears sufficiently, visibly, and conspicuously in the child rights parlance or in the child rights conversation. And I think it is important that we put it at the center of our conversation. Because of this preoccupation on our part, we organized in 2011 a Continental Conference on Child Justice in Uganda, in collaboration and in partnership with our partners, Defense for Children International. That conference was successful. It generated considerable interest in the subject. It also resulted in the formulation or adoption of a guideline on child justice in Africa, which was later endorsed by the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. It served a landmark development. It's now some 7-8 years since the Kampala conference, and we thought that it would be good, it would be useful to revisit the landscape and to sort of document how far we have come, where the problems and the challenges are, and what it is that we can do, and hence this conference.
So in collecting the information for this presentation, I've consulted quite widely to try and find out what are in fact the practical challenges facing children living on the street and the implications for access to justice. So the first and foremost problem for children living on the street is that they don't have parental care and protection, and obviously this is the primary challenge for them. A secondary challenge is that they do not have any form of identity, and so therefore they are excluded from all services that require some form of official identity. They're also considered a persona non grata. They're really not proper people because they have no official identity. And particularly for children with no proof of their age, they are then often treated as adults and therefore caught up in problems associated with adults, even though they are still children.
One of the most overriding concerns was for street children who often face unfair treatment and discrimination.
I think one of the most important things from a conference like this is to really encourage people to see these children in a different light. And instead of just seeing them as children who are a nuisance, who come and beg from you, actually seeing them as children with potential, with real determination, and who really want to make a go of their lives. And we see that time and time again, that the children that we work with do grab every opportunity that we provide them with and move forward. You know, they go back to school, they do well in the school exams, they go on to university, or they establish a small business and become effective business people. So I think we need to change the way we view street children or children in the street and see them as children with agency and determination and who can really make a valuable contribution to society.
At this point, there is a great lack of quantitative and qualitative information on the situation of children deprived of liberty. Supporting a global study came at the end of the conference. to shed light on the scale and conditions of children deprived of liberty and to give us a broad view as possible.
Today it's a regional consultation for all Africa on the global study on children deprived of liberty. In brief, to give you some elements, UNICEF some time ago, 10 years ago, they came out with an estimate that around the world there are about 1 million children deprived of liberty. But they didn't have the data, and we still don't have exact data. We know that there are considerable figures, in fact, for Africa, so children deprived of liberty in Africa. And a group of civil society members led by DCI and Human Rights Watch, we created an NGO coalition called the NGO Panel for the Global Study to promote a United Nations global study on this subject, so on children deprived of liberty. At the beginning it was not easy, but in 2014 we managed to have a UN resolution in New York, voted by the General Assembly, that asked the Secretary General of the United Nations to commission such a study. So that was a first victory, so to speak, and then the independent expert who has been nominated in October 2016, so it's Professor Manfred Novak, who is here in Addis today for this regional consultation, and he's leading the study. The NGO panel, in the meantime, has grown. We are 144 NGOs, African, but from all over the world. We are in this coalition supporting the study, giving alternative information, and supporting also the independent expert in his work. So now we are in a very crucial and important phase of the study, because there is a questionnaire which is going to collect the data from member states of the United Nations. All member states, including Ethiopia and all African countries, have received this questionnaire, normally through their foreign affairs, because it was sent by the Office of the High Commissioner, the UN office in Geneva, to the missions in the UN, and from them to the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. So all states are supposed, before 1st of September, to have filled this questionnaire, but there is another deadline which is much closer, the 26th of June, and the expert asked all member states to communicate the figures of children deprived of liberty in their country as a snapshot of the situation, so that we have already the data and, regarding information and children deprived of liberty.
We are concerned that children remain predominantly invisible in the justice system in Africa, including due to lack of robust collection of disaggregated data, and that efforts to enhance justice for children have been piecemeal and insufficiently embedded in justice systems. This results in the fragmentation of child protection systems, denial of their rights, lack of institutionalized systems, and has overall negative implications for the sustainability of interventions in this regard.
Now, this terminology has to be also very clear. That includes children in the context of administration of justice, if they are in contact or in conflict with the law, but includes also children that, for instance, are living with their parents in prison. There also include children in the context of migration, and that is also a big issue concerning Africa, but also European countries receiving African children. It includes institutions, another big subject. Institutions can be street children, for instance, that have been enclosed in institutions and they cannot go out. That is deprived of liberty in the context of institutions. This has been indeed the debate, a lot of debates on this during the last 2 days, but also today in my, we are now in parallel working groups divided with linguistic groups and so on. But I was in the English-speaking Africa working group, and the issue has been dealt with. There is a direct link, if you want, because many times street children, they are deprived of their liberty, either through national laws who, for instance, forbid to be on the open air, or for criminal activities that can be linked to it. And there are the NGOs that are working with them. There are the countries that we had a country today, a minister in our working group, and she was asking information on how they could deal with the aspect of street children and children in street situations without depriving of their liberty and so on. So we have been explaining saying that the children have the right and the governments have the responsibility to protect children. And this is not deprivation of liberty, as long as there are protection measures, they are done according to the Convention of the Rights of the Child. So the parents are taken into account, the solution of rehabilitation if there are still children that need assistance is taken into account. And there are specific issues that are linked to street children. So street children, although it's not a specific focus of the study, has a direct link because many times they are in the justice system and in the conflict with the law.
This call to action makes it clear that children remain predominantly invisible in the justice systems in Africa, but spotlighting these invisible children will ensure that they are not alone.